Okay, welcome back everyone to another fun-filled day here on PALS TV. We have another great lineup put together for you. It's going to be a lot of fun like it has been all week. Been full of amazing activities. We've had tours from Amanda over in Steubenville, done some ceramics and an incredible history lesson down in Gallia. Doing a lot of bingo, having fun over in Caddis, playing some games. You know, it obviously AOTL has really been energetic and, you know, has been a lot of fun throughout their activities. So come check them out again. I think they're doing Disney trivia again here today, so that should be fun. We've done some yoga over there and some different skits. So he's had some wonderful activities for us as well. They've fully embraced it and have really got into it, very interactive. So try to check those out later on today if you're around. I know we were doing a scrapbooking lesson there, so that should be fun. And then finally over in Columbus, doing some of our educational courses and learning about, you know, different cooking and some of the science behind what's happening right now. So looking forward to another exciting tour over in Steubenville through the Smithsonian. That's been a lot of fun learning about the different animals and the vertebrates, amphibians, reptiles, fish, and mammals. Looking forward to learning more today and having fun with Amanda. So sending it over live from Steubenville with Amanda, our tour of the Smithsonian.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you all again. So we are going to finish up on the second floor, hopefully today. So if you give me a moment, I will share my screen with you guys and you guys can all see what I'm seeing. All right, so we are in the foyer again at the Smithsonian on the first floor. There's our big elephant friend there, always greeting us in the morning. So who remembers, give me 1 minute here, my screen is still being very weird. There we go. Who remembers, raise your hand, what were some of the things we looked at yesterday? Okay, CJ, what are some things we saw yesterday?
We saw snakes.
Yep, we saw bones of snakes. Who else is on here? Sean, what are some things we saw yesterday?
Elephants.
Elephants, well, yeah, we see one right there for sure. All right, so we are gonna head back upstairs to finish looking at our Hall of Bones, and then we are gonna move into, we have an Egypt exhibit still on this wing. We have an insect zoo exhibit. We got a butterfly exhibit, and that'll finish up this wing. And then hopefully we'll be able to move a little bit into the gems and mineralogy area. So let's head on over to Bone 7. All right, so this is right off the bat, we see a perciform fish. So this order includes many species of advanced types of spiny rayed fishes. It is a catch basket order for many relatively unspecialized forms, which were probably ancestral to most of the more specialized orders. Like most advanced types, perciform fishes have spines in the fins, pelvic fins placed on the chest, and the maxillary bone excluded from the biting part of the upper jaw. Otherwise, the group is best characterized by its lack of specializations found in other groups. So this is these are all perciform fishes. So before we get into it, this big one right here, raise your hand if you think you know. What is this big one right here that I'm circling? All right, CJ, what is it?
Swordfish.
It is a swordfish. You are correct. So let's find out a little bit about the swordfish here. He is a big guy. The swordfish begins life with a high dorsal fin behind the head like that of a sailfish, but this becomes reduced as the fish grows. There are no pelvic fins. The bill is broad and flat. The function of the bill is uncertain, but swordfish bills have been known to puncture the hulls of wooden boats. So that right there, it apparently has the capability to puncture through a wooden boat. That would take a lot of force. Over here, this is a dolphin fish. I didn't know there was a fish called a dolphin. The dolphin is a member of the family Coryphonidae. It is a high seas form. The skeleton is strengthened and provides more area for muscle attachment. The dolphin is elongated and has a somewhat snake-like method of swimming. In large males, the bones of the skull form a high crest. So right here you see this crest. So that tells us it was a male or a boy fish. And you see all the spines and vertebrae. And then over here, this is our sailfish. So this guy is pretty closely related. If you look, they're very similar up here to the swordfish. The highly specialized sailfish, a member of the family Impedora, is a fast swimmer with flaring prostheses on the bones for better muscle attachment. The high first dorsal back fin can be folded back into a groove. Elongated premaxillary bones in the upper jaw form the long bill. So see, he's got a long bill, just like that guy does there. And then down here on the bottom, we have a Jack Crevalle. It says it's a wide-ranging form of the open seas. The Jack Crevalle is the only slightly modified form. The male difference are a stronger skeleton and more surface for muscle attachment. Okay, and then we have a spadefish, a sea bass, a tilefish, and I cannot read the other ones here, but again, another type of fish that's in this family right here of perciform fishes. So let's head over to the next. These are all flatfishes. So flatfishes, they lay on the ocean floor on their side with an eyeball sticking up. So they only have eyes on one side of them. And like I said, they lay on the ocean floor. If you can see on the skeletons right here, you can see how they would lay on the floor. Flatfishes are found along the shores and continental slopes of all oceans and seas north of the Antarctic Circle, and a few enter freshwater. These bottom dwellers can be distinguished from all other fishes because their eyes are on the same side of the head and their skulls are partially twisted. They swim with their eyeless, colorless side down. In flatfishes, dorsal and anal fins, the fin on the back and rear underside of most fishes, have exceptionally long bases and are found on the head as well as along the edges of the body. The order includes the right side and the left-sided flounders, the soles, and the tongue soles. So there's an example of a right-eyed flounder, and there's its skeleton. So if you look, you see an eyeball right here, and you also see an eyeball right here. They're both on the same side. So that is our flatfishes. Oh, that's some mummy stuff. We don't get to see that yet. That's next. So right here we have a hagfish, and we have some small sharks here. We all like sharks. The numerous species of sharks are primarily marine, although a few enter freshwater in the higher vertebrate jaws, generally bearing teeth, and there are semicircular canals are typically present. The shark skeleton consists of primarily cartilage, which has a calcified outer layer. Bone is never present. Cartilage vertebrae are formed around a motor cord. Paired pectoral and pelvic fins and their supporting girdles have developed, and there are 5 to 7 lateral gill openings. And there is our shark teeth. Galaxy, did you have a question? I saw you raise your hand. No, okay. So I'm going to ask, who can give me a name of a movie that has a shark in it? There's lots to choose from. You know the name of a movie with a shark? Let's see here.
You want to do it?
Jaws.
Jaws, good job. Anyone else got one? CJ?
Free Willy.
Free Willy? Well, that's a killer whale. It's not a shark, but good try. Can anyone tell me? I know we're not looking at those particular bones, but who can tell me the difference between a shark and a whale? What's the difference between a shark and a whale? So the answer is one is a mammal. So that means they breathe air like me and you. And the other one is a fish. A shark is a type of fish. All right, so next we have our rays. So those are manta rays and stingrays. So the rays are structurally similar to sharks, but have separate gills which open ventrally. The enlarged pectoral fins are attached to the head and are supported by radial cartilages. Species in which the pectoral fins are flexible propel themselves forward by front to rear undulating movements of the fins. Like the sharks, the many species of rays and their relatives are primarily marine. So that means they are in the water all the time. So let's scoot up here. So this is a barn door skate, which is a type of ray. We have a winter skate right here. And down here, it's a guitar fish. Woohoo! Play a country tune, maybe. Okay, so next up we have the herring fish. And there are some examples of herring fish. I would read the description, but unfortunately, it doesn't let me get close enough to see. And then we have carps, catfishes, and their relatives. So up here we have a catfish, and down here we have a carp. Catfish you can pretty much find everywhere in the world. We even have them here in Ohio in our lakes and rivers. Okay, and at the end here, oh, this is our anglerfish. This is that guy in Finding Nemo that tries to eat Dory and Marlin. There we go. I couldn't think of his name. The highly specialized angler fishes are characterized by having the gill openings behind the base of the pectoral fins and by the presence of a modified dorsal fin spine on top of the head. The elysium, which is this thing circled right here, serves as a fishing pole with bait and is used to attract smaller fishies which serve as food. So right there, it's got a light and it's way down deep in the dark ocean. So the fish sees the light and it goes for it. And then the anglerfish catches it and eats it. Okay, so let's move on to our next section. We are in bone 7. So we are actually done with our bones area and we are going to be heading into Egypt. So a whole nother section. Let's head to Egypt. Woohoo! So here's a mummy, or what used to be a mummified body. So according to the thing right here, it says this is a real mummy. So this is from 200 BC to 150 AD is when he might have lived. The body belonged to a man who died about 2,200 years ago. Yet we know something about his life thanks to tissues and hair analysis and CAT scans by museum scientists. Our studies showed that he ate little meat and his lungs contained soot, probably inhaled when tending fires. Also, some internal organs remained intact, so mummies did not receive the deluxe embalming given to elite Egyptians like pharaohs. So I'll zoom in on him a little bit. You can see how mummifying it just preserved him very, very well. He looks pretty good for someone who's been dead for 2,200 years. And up here we have some hieroglyphics. How did embalmers develop their art? Early Egyptians buried their dead in sand pits where dry heat preserved the body. Trying to accomplish what nature did in the desert, embalmers wrapped corpses in linen covered with stucco to give them form. Later, they found that removing the organs helped preserve the body, but it was the natural salt natron that produced the most lifelike remains. So over here, these are actually some jars. They're called canopic jars. And this is what they would have put the organs in, like lungs and heart and the brain, and they would be buried with the mummy. So a little bit of closer up on the hieroglyphics. And these are magic charms or amulets that they would often put in with the mummies. Tuck amulets into the mummy's wraps. They are believed to ward off evil and bring good luck. Position each type according to the instructions in the Book of the Dead. So they would place those in amongst the wraps for protection. Let's go ahead and zoom out. And there you go. So let's down here. Oh, look, we can see what the amulets are. So we have IB, this is the amulet here that protected the heart. Headrest raised the head in the resurrection. Unjet or Eye of Horus endowed the mummy with health and enables it to transform to a living being when it hits the afterlife. The Digib pillar symbolized endurance and stability, important attributes for a mummy. A heart scarab stood for transformation and rebirth. A Waj pillar symbolized rejuvenation and strength, particularly of the throat. The Tayat or Isis's knot provided protection. We have a carpenter square that signified true or exact character in the mummy, soon to be judged in the court of Osiris. We have a moon amulet, connected the deceased rebirth to phases of the moon. A bound ox represented nourishment for the dead and defeat of the god Seth for the murder of Osiris. Double feathers identified the deceased with rejuvenation and also with the two-feathered crown worn by gods associated with the connection between heaven and earth. The son of Horus offered protection during mummification, a power symbolized by the mummy wrappings it holds. And the Mertziger offered the sun god's protection. So I'm going to zoom in up here. See if you guys can find where the heart scarab is. Where would the heart scarab be? Give you a few minutes to look and try to figure it out. Now remember, it's supposed to be the heart, so think of where the heart would be. So our heart scarab is actually going to be right here, this big guy. That is the heart scarab. All right, and there is our mummies. All right, so let's go to our next exhibit. Spin around down here. And we got facing the afterlife. Egyptians believed immortality was possible only if the deceased Ba, or spirit, recognized the mummy in the tomb. Even if the actual head were lost or damaged, a mask guaranteed the reunion could still take place. So these are masks they would put over top the mummies. Notice that only one of the masks above exhibits a real human likeness. All the others present an idealized Egyptian whose features the gods would know. So there are our mummy masks. This would have been on a woman's coffin, a man's coffin mask. There's a mummy mask, another one. This is a portrait of an individual. And there is another women's mummy mask. Pretty cool there. That's more bones. Spin around. Let's go to Egypt 2. Let's zoom out. Mummy science, the inside story. So let's go down here. Who's under wraps? When this mummy came to the museum, it was partially unwrapped and very little was known about its history or the individual inside. Using 2D and 3D scans, museum scientists found that the brain and major organs were removed and rolls of linen filled the abdominal cavity. This evidence of superior mummification indicates that the mummy belonged to the upper class. The crossed arms were consistent with mummification practices beginning at about 500 BC, and there's just some pictures of the scans. So let's go up here and you can see this mummy. You can see it wrapped in linens. His arms are crossed like they said. Let's go up here. Male or female. To determine the mummy's sex, museum scientists recently scanned its pelvis and skull. Compare the images they made to the pelvis and skull casts and see what they discovered. Can you tell that the mummy has a prominent brow ridge, big cheekbones, and a sloping forehead, and a squared off projecting chin? These are all male characteristics. So this would have been a male mummy. You see the square chin over here. This is rounded. This would have been a female. And then look at the mummy's relatively shorter pubic bone and narrow subpubic angle. So this would have been the male. This would have been the female. Okay, so let's see. How do we tell a mummy's age? Because bone is made of living tissue, skeletons change over a lifetime as growth, stress, and aging leave their marks. Scientists rely on these predictable anatomical changes to figure out the mummy's age. The 4 vertebrae here shown come from different aged individual. Compare the 4 stages of aging to the scan to estimate the mummy's age at death. So there's your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. So see, they get a little bit bigger. What would have been cartilage calcifies, and your vertebrae get bigger as you age. And this is how they use computer equipment and skills to recreate, using scans, what a mummy would have looked like before they were mummified. So that is Mummy Science, the inside story. And over here, we got some more about mummies. Museum scientists made more than 500 digital images of these mummies in preparation for this exhibit. So there he is. This is a mummy and its wrappings. They're putting it through the CT scan to see what he would have looked like. This would have been a young mummy. So how young was the boy that was mummified? Teeth give the best estimate of age because genetics play a stronger part in the timing of tooth eruption than the effects of environment or nutrition. Also, as children grow, the long bones of the body lengthen and increase in diameter, providing another scale for estimating age. So let's see if we can see. So according to this mummy, he would have been about 3 years old, so he was very young. There's that, and there's the CT scan. Okay, let's zoom out. Let's spin around town here. What else we got? Woo! Okay, so that would have been there. Exhibits 2. Woo, spin around. Into exhibit 3, there we go. So here we have a sarcophagus. That's what the mummy would have been placed in. If you see, there's writing all over the inside and the outside of the sarcophagus. Let's see if we can figure out why. Let's see here, reading the coffin. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell us. It tells us a little bit about the pictures. We have Ascent from the Netherworld at the bottom. On the coffin floor, the goddesses embrace living spirit. Left inside wall, we have Netherworld's figures, the guardians of the sun, land of the dead. So a lot of times the pictures were a roadmap to help the individual in it, based on their beliefs, find their way to the afterlife. So zoom out a little bit, give you a better picture. And it would be placed in there and the top sealed. We have preparing for eternity. Families preserve the names of loved ones just as they preserve the body. Both were needed to achieve eternal life. So they would put on the coffin who the person was. Very similar to what we do today. When you go to a cemetery, there are gravestones saying who is there and who they were, at least a little bit of information. And then often when a very important Egyptian would die, they would be buried with offerings. So in the 19th century, archaeologists discovered unburied burial chambers with hundreds of thousands of animal mummies still inside. They discovered so many votive offerings, in fact, that many ended up as fuel, fertilizer, or even ballast for ships sailing to Europe. Gradually, however, scientists recognized that animal offerings provided valuable insights into ancient Egypt's environment and culture. Many of the mummies left today reside in museum collections. So these are some things that people would have put in. You have ibises of Thoth, once found in vast numbers along the Nile. Ibises were associated with Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and the moon. Thoth also recorded the results of the final judgment called weighing the heart. So they would put in a mummified one of these. Over here we have, this would have been a cat, a mummified cat that would be placed in there. We have a mummified baboon here, a mummified ibis, and a mummified jackal, which is a type of dog. So they would put those things in there for protection. So the price of a mummy. Over the centuries, millions of Egyptian pilgrims bought votive mummies to offer the gods and built a thriving animal mummy industry. To keep pace with the demand for votive mummies, temples employed legions of workers, bred their own animals, managed catacombs, and stockpiled oils, resins, linen wrappings, and natron, a special salt for drying remains. The quality of mummification and wrapping varied, perhaps to give patrons different price options. Sometimes priests even sold intricately wrapped votive mummies with no animal inside. Over time, the huge number of animals sacrificed for votive offerings may have endangered wild populations of some species, especially ibises and raptors. So there's a better look at that part of the exam. And here's some more animals under wraps. So we have another cat here that was mummified. Looks like apparently several kitties. Cats of Bastet. Egyptians honor Bastet as the goddess of music, love, and self-indulgence, as well as family fertility and birth. To emphasize the association with fertility, some images showed her with her kittens. So there she is. We have falcons of Horus. They were another animal that would typically be mummified as an offering. Egyptians saw falcons and other birds of prey or raptors as manifestations of Horus, one of the sun gods. Like raptors that soar far above the earth, the sun god ruled from on high. Another popular animal offering would have been crocodiles. Seeing crocodiles basking in the sun, Egyptians associated the golden reflection from their scales with Sobek, the sun gods. Sobek guaranteed the annual Nile floods and the fertility of the fields. So we have a mummified snake bundle, a bronze snake votive, a set of mummified crocodiles. There's another mummified crocodile. And we have a mummified lizard as well. There's those. Let's take a spin. Oh my goodness. This is a divine bull. On this monument or stela, a tomb owner named Emu honors a divine bull with food offerings. Archaeologists excavated the stela in the 1980s at the Seraphim Temple in Sarqua, where Egyptians buried Apis bulls, the best known of the divine bulls. So this would have been a bull mummy that was given as an offering. So how did they do it? Priests massaged the bull's bodies, decorated his horns with ornaments of silver, and even sang to them. Egyptians saw him as a living manifestation of a god, and worshippers filled the temple daily to honor him. When the bull died, Egyptians believed he went on to eternal life, and a young bull with the same distinctive markings took his place. Many temples honored other sacred animals. For example, crocodiles that embodied the god Sobek in the temple at Kom-Ombo, and cats of the Bastet of Bazut. So there is the mummified bull. So that was this section over here. Let's see where we've been. Oh, we have made it all through Egypt. So before we go any further, does anybody have any questions about Egypt or want to go back and look at a certain part again? Speak now. Let me know in the comments or raise your hand and we can go back. Okay, so now we are headed off to the next exhibit. We are going to the insect zoo. Woo. Welcome to the insect zoo. So you see, it looks like we're in a cave of some sort out in the wilderness where insects live. Over here, we can see what appears to be a leaf cutter ant colony. This is an example of that. You can see all the different chambers. And we'll spin around and see what we got here. So these are bromeliads. Bromeliads are plants that use trees or cliff walls for support. So this is are a few bromeliads. A type of bromeliad you guys probably see pretty often in the grocery store is a pineapple. A pineapple is a type of this plant. So let's head, well, hello, over to Insect Zoo. Insect Zoo 2. So we are going to see some of these insects now, see what we can see. Over here, we've got all kinds of different butterflies. I see a dragonfly, spiders. Ugh, I don't like spiders. I don't know about you. The amazing arthropods. Think of lobsters, spiders, beetles, centipedes, and millipedes. They all look different, but their bodies are built the same way. Believe it or not, they all belong to the same group of animal, arthropods, from the Latin arthropoda, meaning jointed legs. More than 90% of the Earth's animals are arthropods. So we got some insects in here. We can't really see them on here, unfortunately, but there's some of their enclosures. Order of chaos. What is a species? A species is a group of individuals that can breed together to produce fertile offspring, but cannot breed with other groups. While there is only one human species, there may be as many as 30 insect species, 30 million, excuse me. Each species has a unique set of characteristics that it develops over time. Arthropods have had more than 450 million years to undergo mutations, tiny changes that result in new kinds of individuals. The process called natural selection decides which mutations are beneficial by allowing the fittest species to survive and perhaps go on to become new species. Some insects sprouted fixed planes that extended outward of years. Just a few more animals. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to see a whole lot here in the insect zoo. So you got an example of a honeycomb here. Without insects, there would be lots of things, no plants. Insects help pollinate things so we have fruits and vegetables and flowers and all those important things that we need to survive. Okay, so now we are going to go to the butterfly exhibit. Ooh, pretty. So we have our butterflies. Unfortunately, again, it's not letting us see a whole lot in the land of butterflies. Let's see if we can zoom up here. A moth with an 8-inch tongue, an orchid with a throat to match. Why go to such lengths? It appears that over many generations, the giant hawk moth and Madagascar star orchid have been changing in response to each other, a process called co-evolution. Today, both partners benefit from their close fit. The moth gets exclusive access to food while the orchid gets a reliable pollinator. So there's an example of a hawk moth. And we just got some pretty flowers that the insects would help pollinate, just some different stuff. Butterflies, we have all kinds here. We have a monarch. So lots of different butterfly species. And you can see here, butterflies have been around for a very long time, up to 170 million years ago, 5 fossils moth species. So there were moths. Then 102 million years ago, there were still moths. They found 25 fossil moth species. 48 million years ago, 60 fossil moth species, 10 fossil butterfly species. So we can figure out that butterflies evolved from moths. And today we have 135,000 moth species and almost 20,000 butterfly species. That is a lot of different moths and butterflies. Man, oh man. Okay. So we are able to go into our geology section. We have a few minutes. We can do a little bit in here just for a look around real quick in the main part. Right here, this is the Hope Diamond. This is the diamond that, remember in Titanic when she throws the necklace over the bow of the ship? That is what that necklace was based on, was the Hope Diamond. It's quite big. Let me find out a little bit of information here about Hope Diamond, because unfortunately I cannot read the thing. It's not going to let us get too close. I'm going to assume it's because they don't want people stealing. The Hope Diamond is one of the most famous jewels in the world, with ownership records dating back almost 4 centuries. Its much admired rare blue color is due to trace amounts of boron atoms. It weighs 45.52 carats, and its exceptional size has revealed new findings about the formation of gemstones. So some famous people who have owned the Hope Diamond are, let's see here, who all has owned it? Jean-Baptiste owned it, King Louis of France, 3 generations of King Louis, King George of the United Kingdom. So a lot of times it has been held by very wealthy, well-to-do families, kings, things of that sort. So let's scoot over here. It's another view of the Hope Diamond. And actually, let me see if I can pull up. This will be the last thing. I want to get you guys a closer close-up of the Hope Diamond. There we go. So right there is the Hope Diamond. You see it's very, very large, and it's surrounded by other diamonds. Well, that's all the time we're going to have today. We will be back tomorrow, and we will go through more gems and other things of that. Did everyone seem to enjoy today and all of our exploration? Does anyone have any questions before I go that I might be able to answer for someone? All right, then. It's heading over to Aaron now. How do I trade my...
Thank you so much, Amanda. Another wonderful tour. It was a lot of fun. I like that we ended on the Hope Diamond. I still remember that from my one and only trip to the Smithsonian. So That was very cool. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, we will be back here soon, coming to you live from Heath next and scrapbooking with Connie. So that should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. So we will see you back here in about 15 minutes, live from Heath.